Lynchings were the widespread occurrences of extrajudicial killings beginning in the 1830s, and most research say that they peaked during the civil rights movement in the 1960s. There were cases of lynchings in the 2020s. Okay? Now, lynchings were used to enforce white supremacy. They were typically done because a black person violated Jim Crow law or Jim Crow etiquette. We talked about those two things, okay? And I'm going to share just a few not so fun facts. One study found that there were 4,467 total victims of lynching from 1883 to 1941. Of those victims, 4,027 were men, 3,265 were black. From 1882 to 1968, Mississippi had the highest number of lynchings with 581. Georgia came in second with 531, and Texas was third with 493. Okay? And although SA is often cited as the rationale, statistics now show that only about 1/4 of lynchings from 1880 to 1930 were prompted by accusations of SA. Most victims of lynching were political activists, labor organizers, or black men and women who violated white expectations of black deference, Jim Crow etiquette, and others who were deemed uppity. Yes. In 1903, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch reported a new popular children's game. Yes, they had a children's game. The game was called the game of lynching, where they had an imaginary mayor who gave orders not to harm the imaginary mob, and then an imaginary hanging followed. The taking of things such as pieces of rope, clothing, branches, and sometimes body parts were not uncommon. No, I'm not kidding you. Lynching was often treated as a spectacle sport, where large crowds gathered to partake in or watch the torture and the mutilation of victim or victims. The attendants often treated these as festive events with food, family photos, and the aforementioned souvenirs. Moms would often place children on their shoulders so that they could see black people dying. On March 1st, 2023, in Tennessee, during a criminal justice subcommittee debating a bill to add the firing squad to Tennessee's existing methods of execution, State Representative Paul Sherrell asked, "Could I put an amendment on that would include hanging on a tree also?" Months after the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act was passed, good old boy Paul Sherrell wants to see if they could add lynching as a means of execution in the state of Tennessee, where there were at least 236 lynchings between 1877 and 1950. Now, I know he's apologized, and I don't care. It wasn't sincere. He didn't mean it. The only thing I want to hear from him is that he resigns. But he's not going to do that either. What I need you to understand, what I need you to realize, is that good old boy Paul Sherrell would have been 5 or 6 years old when they were lynching black men and women for trying to vote in the state of Tennessee. He was 5 or 6 years old when they were lynching black men and women for trying to register other black men and women to vote. His flippancy when offering lynching as a means of execution tells me that he witnessed one or two lynchings when he was a child, and he probably has some fond memories of it. What you don't realize, or what you don't seem to understand, is that these things that we talk about, Jim Crow and Jim Crow etiquette, and yes, lynchings, it was not that long ago. White men who brought their families along with them to witness the lynching of black men and women, who put their children on their shoulders so that they can have a better view. The white men are still alive, and those children are still alive. Some of them are serving in Congress, passing legislation.